Hello, welcome to Radio Row at Super Bowl 56. Today we're very excited to have with us sports agent Leigh Steinberg. Leigh is one of the preeminent sports agents, been doing this for a lot of years and has had incredible success. Leigh, welcome to the show. We're glad that you're here. We know that you have so much going on, but one of the things that has always attracted us to connecting with you is how much work and how much time you spend with athletes, getting them involved with the community and talking about their foundation. That's been something that's really been part of your fabric from the beginning. How did that start?
Well, my dad raised my brothers and I with two core values. One was to treasure relationships, especially family, and then to try to be an agent for change, make a difference in the world in a positive way, and help people who couldn't help themselves. So I've sort of been hardwired. And one of his corollaries was when you're waiting for the amorphous they or them to solve a problem. Older people, political figures, he would say, you could wait forever. The they is you, son, you're the they. So the point is, we can tackle problems from domestic violence to sex trafficking to bullying to the environment to racism through the power of role modeling, triggering imitative behavior.
So you really touched on a lot of issues, and I think one of the things that you've done well that we see is that you sit down with the players and find out what's important to them. You're not taking lead passions and kind of imposing that on the players. So when you look back at the evolution, you started this in the mid-70s. You were way ahead of your time in terms of getting people involved with the community. What was the reason that you started that?
I think the enemy of athletic happiness is self-absorption. Enough about me. Can we talk about how you feel about me? So stimulating the best in them, putting together a charitable foundation with leading business figures, political figures, and community leaders to take some legacy vision of the athlete, something that they always wanted to tackle. So, for example, work done and just put the 175th single mother and their family into the first home they'll ever own by making the down payment and having Home Depot outfitted. So it's athletes changing lives. It's 15 in the Mahomes with Patrick Mahomes helping community groups. It's Tuatongo Bailoa going back to his high school and endowing a scholarship. And we're going to give an award on Saturday to Rolf Benerschke, who started the iconic program Kicks for Critters. So for every field goal he kicked, he gave money to the Fund for Endangered Species. And there were posters and pledge cards throughout the city. So they raised millions of dollars to help save species. And that was the genesis, Roy, for all the programs you see that link athletic achievement with some corporation doing a matching program, which you'll see all over the league now.
One of the things that you've had a passion about from a very early stage is concussions. I know on Saturday you're hosting the Brain Health Summit. Talk a little bit about that event and what led you to start your impulse into looking into concussions.
So I had a crisis of conscience back in the late 80s and 90s. I'm representing half the starting quarterbacks in football. They keep getting hit in the head, and when we went to doctors and asked how many are too many, what's the magic number, when should we consider retiring, they had no answers. So I started holding conferences where I would put the players together with leading neurologists. We tried to pioneer differences in rules and headgear and not having kids play too early in tackle football. And finally, we had Ben and Amalu tell us that 3 or more concussions is the number, and then it leads to exponentially higher rates of Alzheimer's, premature senility, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and depression. So I've called it a ticking time bomb and an undiagnosed health epidemic. So we have to be in the solution business here. eventually we'll see football played with no hitting during training camp and no hitting during practice. So that will cut it down some. And then we're exploring nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals that can heal the brain, whether it's hyperbaric oxygen, whether it's a process called RTMS. So we'll have another session at the Super Bowl party at Sony Studios on Saturday.
Leigh, if you don't mind, I'm actually going to ask you a question, and it's a very personal
question directed specifically to you. If I gave you $25,000 and I said, Leigh, do whatever you want with this money, but use it for good to create hope and possibility for sports, where would you put your $25,000?
I would put it into training people to be the advanced vanguard against hate. To do a program that I did a while back, which was to be able to train people to spot skinheads and hate groups and go into crisis situations to intervene and go into school systems to promote ethnic diversity and tolerance towards each other. So I would try to create another generation against hate.
I love it. I just want to say, living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, one of the top 10 most segregated cities in the United States, being a single mom with 8 kids, Leigh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So many cities and communities need that, and I applaud your work.
Well, we did the 30 biggest cities in the country some time ago, and now it's time to redo it.
Well, you talked about fighting against hate, being such a rise of that in the culture, right? A lot more, even though it's conceptually not tolerated, it seems like it's become more fashionable and more accepted. When you start working with your players, when they come out of college, how do you deal with that? Because with social media today, the ability for the average fan to express hate directly at the athlete is substantially more than it was in the old days, where maybe they had to wait on hold for 25 minutes to get on a sports talk radio show, and they could be cut off at any minute.
It's pretty clear that athletes are under a microscope the minute they leave their home or wherever they go. And so a certain amount of care has to go into what they post and how they express themselves. And you fight hate with programs that raise people's awareness, and you take the darkness and you try to light lights.
So the world has changed. College sports in the last 12 to 24 months, the landscape has really changed with the discussion of NIL. Now players are allowed to have some form of representation, at least, and not lose their eligibility, not in terms of negotiating contracts, but in terms of endorsements and marketing opportunities. How has that changed the landscape for you as an agent? You've always needed to go and recruit players earlier, but now there's actually something you can do for them while they're in college.
So it's been a revolution since July 1st, when the new NIL policy allowing players to have a marketing agent was instituted. And among other things, it moves earlier the time that it's necessary to talk to a player. So normally in football, you would not be talking to a player until their junior year, because it couldn't come out in the draft anyway. Well, now all of a sudden, it's necessary to spot the top high school players. Football has been 3 years, basketball one and done. Baseball's always had high schoolers, but that's so much earlier time than I'm used to talking to players in. And fundamentally, it's their parents that you're talking to at that point. But it moves the whole timetable to a much earlier point.
I know Kayla had some questions on the concussion area, and in terms of some of the potential treatments, things using CBD oil and things like that. Kayla, do you want to
Leigh, so here's the thing. This is what I struggle with as a mom, right? We've got this whole group of kids who are trying to say, don't use drugs, don't get into gangs, you don't just stay away from all of it, get an education, play sports. I also know a lot of athletes who are using CBD and marijuana to mitigate some of the concussions and physical ailments. What's your stand on CBD and is it useful in treating concussions, Leigh?
Well, I think CBD, we don't have studies because it hasn't been done long enough, but anecdotally, you would assume that it's helpful. The best thing I've seen is hyperbaric oxygen because it restores the brain. There's a new brain process called RTMS that uses magnets and electricity. And it's been able to stimulate a concussed brain and to try to return it. There's also biofeedback. So I think it's all helpful. The using CBD or even marijuana as an alternative to using opioids makes sense to me because we have a whole epidemic of athlete goes into the hospital, treated with opioids, comes out with an addiction. That's not great.
So that's actually,
that's
my next question for you.
my next
You've got
question
the
for you,
Brain Health Summit coming up this weekend. You're working hard to make a difference in the community. Will you tell everybody who might be watching this a little bit about the Brain Health Summit?
So we've put neurologists and experts in the field together into a panel setting. And we're going to bring a couple hundred people from across the country to explore, again, awareness, prevention, and cure. And if we can keep moving towards solutions. See, what I fear is if 50% of the moms in this country know what I know about concussion and tell their teenage boys you can play any sport, but not tackle football. It won't kill football, but it will turn it into a gladiator sport where only people with real economic need will play it. I'll let you know if they say anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we've done work with baseline concussion testing and the parents come in, it's clear that they really have no knowledge of what's going on in the concussion space. We would have moms that would come and tell us, thank you for protecting little Johnny by doing his baseline test, and we all know that doesn't help. But we're excited to participate in the Brain Health Summit. We look forward to seeing you there. I know you've got a hectic day here on Radio Road, so we want to let you go, and you'll let Kayla close it out. But we want to thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Leigh. So my name is Kayla Brett. I'm here with Roy Kessel and Sports Philanthropy Network. Joining with us today, Leigh Steinberg of Steinberg Sports to talk about the importance of concussion awareness and the Brain Health Summit. Thank you, Leigh.
You're welcome.